So you've clicked on this video because you want to know how to make your trash art look good. So here it is. I've made a 5-step formula that you can use to transform any artwork, going through its line work, proportions, colour, lighting and rendering, so that you'll never have to have an artwork that you can't fix again. Starting out with step 1, the line work. If you make sure that your line work is clean and professional, then there's a couple things that you need to have. Firstly, avoid chicken scratching. If your line work consists of hundreds of these tiny, unconfident strokes, then it could be killing the quality of your lines. Draw with big, sweeping strokes from your elbow instead. Secondly, when you were making your line work, how well did you use pen pressure? It might sound simple, but when you have some areas that are thicker and thinner on your line art, based on where the shadows are, it can add so much more three-dimensionality to the artwork without you having any more real art knowledge. And before someone complains that they don't have pen pressure or they're doing traditional art, you can still get this effect by going over thicker areas a few more times like I'm showing here. So before I go on to the second step and the rest of the video, I want to give a quick disclaimer that I'm not some professional artist. In fact, my art is probably amateur at best. These are just a few things that I find to help me the most, and hopefully you can also get some value from it. Step 2 is the proportions. Of course, this depends on whether you're doing a character, environment, or anything else, but at the time when I find this to be the most important is with characters. Get a proportions sheet and compare how the main landmarks stack up. Here's a few checks that you can do right now. Are the eyes aligned? Is there roughly an eye's distance in between the eyes? Are the shoulders about 2 to 3 heads wide? Is the full body 7 to 8 heads high? And is all of this adjusted for perspective? The more times you do these checks, along with many others, the more intuitive it will get to see when something's off and be able to fix it. Now, if your work is stylized, you can be a bit more lenient with it, but it's still something to do, especially if one of your proportions is way off and you didn't mean it. Once you have the proportions you need to fix, if you're doing digital art, then the best way to fix it without ruining the rest of the artwork, in my opinion, is the liquify tool or the lasso tool. If you use the liquify tool, make sure to adjust the size to get the right areas that you want, and for all of these processes, flip the canvas regularly to get a fresh perspective and reevaluate how it looks. If you decide to use the lasso tool, then it's a bit easier, but you may have to redraw some parts afterwards that you've impacted from it. The third step is the colour. Although this isn't as common as a problem as the first or last few that I'll get to later, it can still be fatal to your artworks if you don't get it right. So here are a few very important things to remember when adding the base colours. The most important decision you'll make when adding in the base colours is, well, which colours to choose and for what parts. I highly recommend that you go and learn some colour theory, or at the very least have and use a template with some common colour schemes that you can use. If you really don't know anything, then just stick to a complementary colour scheme, as it almost always works and is the easiest to start with. Or you can try and use a colour palette that you find online. I find it's best to first learn the theory behind why those colours you've chosen work. Then once you've learned the theory, you can go and study some of your favourite artworks to look at how they applied those colour theories that you just learned. The next key aspect of choosing good base colours is picking the right saturation and value. So what do I mean by that? On the simplest level, this means making your base colours relatively dark and desaturated, so that they're probably somewhere in the centre of both saturation and value. We do this so that when it's time to add lights and saturated points later, they'll stand out from the base colour with lots of contrast instead of the whole drawing being one saturated mess. So how do you apply this to your current drawing to fix the base colours? Well, pretty much every digital art software has a tool that allows you to do just that. It's the hue and saturation adjustment layer or filter. All you do is find the area that you need to change, select it and decrease the saturation to the right amount, or move the slider to change the colours to one that suits better, like from the colour schemes. You might need to do a little bit of manual adjustments afterwards, but it will be worth it. In some cases you can use the curves adjustment tool by creating an S shape to increase the contrast, but this only works if you already have the base colours in the right direction and you're enhancing it. So now on to the fourth step, which is the lighting. When you don't get the lighting right, you might find it difficult to know why, and in a lot of cases you don't even realise that the lighting is wrong. This of course can make it hard to fix and even frustrating because the drawing looks off, but you just can't pinpoint what to do about it or how to fix it. I assure you it's worth it though, because good lighting can be the difference between an amateur or beginner and a very impressive artwork. And even if their sketch and base colours are the same, it makes a massive difference and is not something you want to get wrong or miss out on fixing. To get the lighting right, there's a few things you can do. Firstly, one of the most seemingly obvious things but also so overlooked, get a lighting reference. Everyone knows to use a reference for the sketch if you want to improve your proportions, but yet so few people do the same for lighting. Go onto Pinterest and search up lighting reference. You can use one separate than your sketch reference if you would like. Once you have one where it's a similar position and the lighting setup that you like, you want to constantly compare how it looks, as well as studying how that one works. Look where the lighting has been diffused versus where there's hard shadows. Look for bounce light, ambient occlusion, and subsurface scattering. If you don't know what these terms mean, then look them up, because you'll be using them a lot. If you can't find a lighting reference that's similar to what you have in your drawing to fix it, then look up Asaro head lighting and put that into the correct position to your lighting setup so that it matches your drawing with the head rotated in the right angle. Now you can compare how the light interacts with the different planes of the head and see what you need to change. For environments, it's a little bit more difficult to check, but one common issue that it's important to remember when painting environments is that things get lighter and have much less contrast as they get further away due to an effect called atmospheric perspective, which might be why your environment currently looks flat. The final check for your lighting that can apply to anything you're drawing is to really think about where the light source is and what will happen to the light rays, as well as what colour as it travels through space. If you have to draw light rays on a layer above to help you, then do it. Think about the light. Think about if the light will hit each part of the painting when travelling in a straight line. Can it get there, or can it hit something else and then get there? In which case it will have some of that object's colour in it as well. The fifth and final step to make your art look good is to transform the rendering. This is what will turn the artwork from a B+ to an A star, and it's that mystical ability that all of these amazing artists seem to have but never explain. The way I see it, rendering comes down to two things. If you get right, this will make everything else work. This is the use of subtle colour transitions as well as the combination of hard and soft edges used in details effectively. Fixing your rendering can be a difficult thing, and sometimes it's better to remove some of the details so that you have a clean slate before re-rendering parts. When rendering, you want to make sure that you have some clear definition between the soft and hard edges, because as you get more into the details, these things can easily be soft, making it look messy and unclear, despite all the time spent. After that, it's important that on the render, there's many smaller colour variations to add realism or depth to the painting so that it doesn't look flat, but make sure not to overdo it so that it doesn't wash out the base colour or correct lighting you've added earlier. You can add a blend mode like colour to make this easier if you prefer. Apart from that, you could actually see rendering as a continuation of lighting, except in more detail, so still make sure to apply all of the tips from that section to fix the rendering as well. Before I give you one final tip, as you watch the video this far, it looks like you found it helpful, so delu.co.uk will be the next place to go. For the final tip, I want to say that remember, art takes time and practice. If you apply all the things in this video, it should speed that up, but it still won't be easy. Apart from that, I hope you enjoyed, and this helped you to improve your art.